Good evening to week 6 of the NFL season, and welcome to the Line of Scrimmage DFS Cast Game Show, plus a little GPP, with my good friend John the Scholar, Laub, and myself, Emil Kadlec. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We have an 11-game slate. I've been working on it for the last 36 hours. I feel pretty comfortable. It's a challenging slate, but I believe that I have some really players that people can place into their lineup tonight. I like the slate now. It took me a little while to get comfortable with it, but we can do it, and we're going to help you win tonight.
Beautiful. All right, let's go to the first slide.
All right, for all
Carson
our viewers, for all of our viewers, we like to begin with some salary cap options who are sleepers this week. And we like to go down in salary cap. That gives you flexibility when you put your lineups together. And players that you may not have thought about, or that is not getting a lot of discussion in the fantasy universe, the DFS world. So the first one, quarterback was hard this week. But the more I thought about it, the more and more I was attracted to Carson Wentz. I'm looking at this game, and my gut instinct tells me to stay away from the Ravens' defense. But Emil, when I looked a little deeper, the Ravens are not as good as they were last year. Their defense against opposing quarterbacks are 23rd in DraftKings points allowed.
Oh.
They can be beaten on the back end. This isn't the amazing Ravens defense that we've seen. Dwayne Haskins, my friend, threw for 314 yards against the Ravens. Whoa. Patrick Mahomes, obviously he's great, threw for 385 and 4 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson, 275 and a touchdown. This defense can be beaten on the back end. And I believe that people have written the narrative of Carson Wentz. And I think that narrative is not necessarily what is actually happening on the field. Yes, he opened up the season slow. Washington and the Rams, he only scored 16 and 14 points. But since then, Emil, Carson Wentz has scored 23.5, 22.4, and 19.4. His salary opened the season at $6,300. He's now $5,600. No one is talking about Carson Wentz. Here's the company that he is in. He's below Nick Foles. He's below Baker Mayfield. He's barely above Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones. Carson Wentz is being overlooked. Now, if this game was in Baltimore and they had their crowd, I might be a little bit concerned. But it's in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is not allowing fans in, so he's going to be able to make audibles in this game. And my eyeball test tells me that Carson Wentz is playing better football. They've got some weapons here. He can get things done. They have Miles Sanders. And the way to beat Baltimore is through the air. I like Carson Wentz. $5,600 for a starting quarterback. I love that price. If you're looking to save what, Emil?
Yeah, and also, even though we're talking cash right now, he's 0.6% owned in DFS.
I mean, that's an incredible price if you want to stack Baltimore and Philadelphia, which is a reasonable option.
Yeah.
Get away from the herd. Don't stack Lamar Jackson. Stack Carson Wentz. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like this here for $5,600. You just said the price is or the ownership is tremendously low. Yeah, so I love it.
Low. Very low.
Very low. The other player. I was reluctant. I'm worried about this Giants offense. But when I dug deeper and I said to myself, he's playing the Washington football team. He's $4,900, Devonte Freeman, for a starting running back who has that rare opportunity in the NFL. He is their 3-down back. He is by far going to get the majority of the snaps, the majority of the opportunities. He is their best player in the backfield. Dion Lewis is shot. Wayne Gallman can't get it done. Devonte Freeman is under $5,000, $4,900. In the last 2 weeks, he scored 10.8 and 16.7. What I like about him is he's gotten 7 targets in the last 2 weeks. He's caught 6 receptions. I understand that this Washington defensive line can rush the quarterback, and that's a challenge because Daniel Jones holds on the ball too long. But Emil,
that's when he holds on to the ball if he's not fumbling.
Yes, so we got a couple problems. But the coaching staff here has to do a better job. Run some screen passes, quick dump offs. They've got to get the ball out of Daniel Jones' hands. And how do you slow down a pass rush? Screen, screen, screen. You have a very efficient veteran running back who can run a screen pass. You can dump it off to him quickly. Devonta Freeman is the answer to the Giants' problems on offense, in my opinion. They've got to get the ball into his hands. Under $5,000. Emil, for 3 times investment, we only need about 15 DraftKings points. It's going to be dependent on a touchdown. But if we get an uptick in targets, if he can somehow get 5 receptions, we're in great shape. Devonta Freeman has an upside of 20 points, and I believe a nice floor of 10. I like him here for $4,900. I don't think enough people are talking about him. And then we get into this middle price range from about $5,600 to, let's say, about $4,800. I'm looking at a lot of these wide receivers. Julian Edelman, questionable. Jerry Jeudy, don't necessarily like the matchup going into New England when they don't have Cortland Sutton. Darius Slayton, we got hot with them last week, but I'm not going back to the well this week. Chase Claypool, I get it. We can talk about him later. Marvin Jones, T.Y. Hilton, Brandon Cooks, who is hot. When I look at this price range, Laviska Shenault stands out to me as a very high upper-end ceiling player. Loved him at Colorado. He had some injury concerns in college, but right now in the NFL, he's been very healthy. He looks like he's good to go. DJ Chark is not likely to play in this game. Laviska Shenault should have more snaps than he's had, and he should have more targets. And what I like, in the last 3 games, Emil, he's been targeted consistently. 8, 6, and 6. And he's very efficient with those targets. His receptions are 5, 5, and 7. Laviska Shenault has not scored a touchdown in the last 4 games. He scored the opening week of the year against Indiana, and he hasn't scored since. I like him this week very much against Detroit. This has a very sneaky over-under. Minshew's going to get the ball into his playmaker's hands. And without DJ Chark, I like Laviska Shenault a lot. And what I like about Shenault is he is dynamic on reverses, and you can line him up in the backfield. When I watch him at Colorado, I absolutely love the film. And one of the things was the Buffaloes were very creative with getting the ball in Shenault's hands. This might be the type of game where Shenault takes a handoff or a quick pass and takes it 40 yards for the touchdown. I like Shenault here a lot. It's a great matchup against the Lions, and he's in line for more opportunities to produce points. So those are my 3 sleepers. Now I'm going to give you a 4th one, and I don't usually do this, but Phillip Lindsay is only $4,300. And I didn't know when I was looking. It just came across, or I just saw it about 2 hours ago. Melvin Gordon did not make the flight to New England.
Have you been not watching footballdiehards.com this morning?
I was not. I was doing college football all morning, unfortunately. So Philip Lindsay is $4,300. I'm going to update my Summa and Magna Cum Laude lineups in the morning tomorrow. He's very possible to make it in. I'm going to look at the matchup more. I know it's difficult against New England, but I'm going to look at that backfield. I'm going to look at the price. I'm going to make a decision. Now, I had him in my value plays, but now that Gordon's out, I like Philip Lindsay a lot more than I did earlier today.
He's a tempting guy. Now, also on Chenault, that's a morning game, so everybody go to Football Diehards and check, the out. So you'll be able to know whether Chalk is going to be out or not, and that'll help you decide about Chenault. Definitely help him. Yep. All right, ready for the next slide?
Absolutely.
There we are.
All right, our Fantastic Four. Emil and I have been giving you a really good core to build your cash game lineups on our Fantastic Four. Also, remember, if you like our Fantastic Four, you can plug it into the optimizer on footballdiehards.com. If you like these 4 players as much as I do, and you don't know who you want to put into the rest of your lineup because you still have to take 5 more players, hey, punch in these 5 numbers on our optimizer, and it'll give you up to 10. I think you can even do 20, right? Yeah, 20 different lineups. So go plug them in. And also remember, we have my lineups on footballdiehards.com in the sheet of knowledge. And how did I build a lineup around these 4 players? But when I was doing my research, I want to give you enough money to have some decent options around the Fantastic Four. So these 4 players are going to cost you $25,100. That means you have $4,980 on average for the other 5 players. And if you notice, one of those 5 players is a defense, and one of those 5 players is a tight end. So you can save money, even more money on your salary cap when you invest in those positions. But my Fantastic Four for this week that I'm building on, Emil, how can you not like Ryan Fitzpatrick this week? The guy is saving me in so many season-long leagues, including the Scott Fish Bowl. Ryan Fitzpatrick has outscored Lamar Jackson. I own both Jackson and Fitzpatrick in the Scott Fish Bowl. And I think I took Fitzpatrick in round 17 as my 3rd quarterback. Mm-hmm. In the last 4 games, 30, 26, 25, and 27 points. I'm shocked. He was $5,200 in week 2. With those numbers I just gave you and that production, he is only at $5,900.
Yeah.
If you haven't figured it out, everyone, the Jets stink. The Jets stink. They are on the road. Now, my only concern, this is a rivalry game going back for decades. The Jets tend to play Miami tough. However, I think they're just outright bad. They just traded Le'Veon Bell. This locker room's upset. Their defense can't stop anyone. And Fitz is hot. Fitz is playing very good football. If this was in New York, maybe I'd be a little less confident. But in Miami, with the rise of Devontae Parker, and last week we saw Preston Williams just hit a grand slam in single coverage. Myles Gaskin, I can't believe I'm saying this, the words out of my mouth, is playing decent football in the backfield. He is by far Miami's best runner. Jordan Howard's gone. Matt Breida's gone. I mean, they're there. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's the guy. So start with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I couldn't believe it when I started doing my research. When I started looking at every data point, opponent, opportunity share, 3 down back, goal line back, every data point that I like, David Montgomery comes up positive. Emil, since Cohen has been injured, Tyreek Cohen has been injured. David Montgomery is now the pass catcher in Chicago. The last 2 weeks, he has 14 targets and 10 receptions. I would absolutely like to see an uptick in attempts. But if he's going to be their pass catcher and he's against this Panthers defense and he's the goal line back against the Panthers defense, the Panthers bleed fantasy points to opponents. They are dead last in the NFL. They are giving up 36 points a game to opposing running backs. They have given up 563 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. Ooh. And here's what gets me salivating the most. Opposing running backs have 43 receptions for 288 yards and a touchdown against Carolina. They also give up a ton of red zone touches and red zone targets. 38 red zone touches combined to opposing running backs. Every data point I look at, David Montgomery comes out positive. I like him a ton this week. He's only 5,800. I know there's risk. I get it. But everything says that a reasonable coach with a good game plan is going to get the ball into David Montgomery's hands more than he has in the past. David Montgomery is fresh. There's no reason not to get the ball into David Montgomery's hands. I love him. He's in my Fantastic Four. Now, I'm spending up. But once again, it has to be Alexander Madison. Dalvin Cook is now out. We just saw Alexander Madison come off the bench against Seattle. 20 carries, 112 yards rushing, 3 receptions for 24 yards. He scored 19.6 DraftKings points, Emil, without a touchdown. We know Gary Kubiak's offense. It is a running back-centric, a bell cow-centric. They're going to funnel touches to their running backs. Alexander Madison against a terrible run defense in the Atlanta Falcons, who are surrendering nearly 30 points a game to opposing running backs. And what I like about running backs against Atlanta, 43 receptions to opposing running backs for 317 yards and 4 touchdowns. Emil, yum, yum, yum. Yes. I know it's expensive. I get it. He's 7,200. You're saying to yourself, myself, can I spend 7,200? Yes, because here's the deal. I've been watching Gary Kubiak since he was assistant coach with the Denver Broncos under Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan's father. When Gary Kubiak was the coach of the Texans, when he won the Super Bowl with Denver, when he's been offensive coordinator, every stop, Gary Kubiak has run his offense through the running back. Alexander Madison's the guy tomorrow. Love him in this matchup against Atlanta. 7,200. Put him in, my friends. Wide receiver. The best matchup, in my opinion, on the board is Kenny Galladay against Jacksonville. All week, people have been talking about Matthew Stafford. And I like Matthew Stafford too. Don't get me wrong. But if Matthew Stafford goes off, you know who he's going to throw the ball to, Emil? Kenny Galladay. Yep. He's awesome. This matchup is perfect. He has scored 17.7 and 16.2 points per game. In the two games. Remember, he sat out in the beginning of the year. Also, the Lions' defense is the 18th worst the Jaguars' defense is the 18th worst defense on DraftKings to opposing wide receivers.
Nice.
Absolutely love Kenny Galladay. And what I like about him here, he has an extremely high floor. I think his floor is 14 points. But his ceiling is 30. We know that Kenny Galladay has huge games. Every year he has 2 or 3 huge games, like 120 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns on 6 receptions. I think that game is coming. I love this matchup. So my Fantasy 4 this week, everyone. Ryan Fitzpatrick against the Jets. David Montgomery against the Panthers. Alexander Madison against the Falcons. And Kenny Galladay against the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you love that lineup like I do, that Fantastic 4, put it into our optimizer on footballdiehards.com and find out what the optimizer says, how to score the most points in your cash game.
Bing bong. Excellent. A lot of great plays there. And Galladay is definitely due.
Absolutely. Oh, man, he's due.
All right, next slide.
And my friends, we have so much great DFS analysis and articles and insight. Not only do we have the optimizer, and on our next slide, we're going to talk about ownership percentage. But we have some great articles for you to read. You can go to footballdiehards.com now. You can get Bob Harris, the Hall of Famer, his DFS 3 and out. Gary Davenport, the shadow knows that is wide receivers versus cornerback matchup. Justin Lanero, the DFS, digging in the crates daily. Where are the bargains on DraftKings? My Scholars DFS sheet of knowledge is up there. It gives you lineup options. It gives you top shelf. It gives you value plays and fading plays. It's all in there. And then Kyle Dvorchak, he gives us the DFS cash game and the tournament breakdown. All of those articles, including the optimizer and the ownership percentage, are on footballdiehards.com now. Check it out, everyone.
And not to mention all the videos like the one we're doing right now. And also we've got Kyle and Brady who did a Wednesday one that you can rewatch. And, of course, Brady's on tomorrow morning with me at 10 o'clock Eastern, also it'll be on the site, and it's live on YouTube/footballdiehards.com or footballdiehards/. So a lot of fun stuff. We give it as much as we can. All right, next slide.
Every week we end our show with the Contrarian Stack. For those of you who love GPP and, it's fun to dabble, if you really want to come out on top, you need to invest in a game that doesn't have high ownership, that has the possibility of shooting out, that maybe not is on the radar as much as other games. It doesn't mean that it's the only game. But this slate, the big boys are going the Green Bay Packers at Buccaneers, the Lions at the Jaguars, the Falcons at the Vikings. There's going to be tons and tons of lineups in GPP centered around those matchups. And then you're going to get Texans and the Titans stacks. Those, to me, tend to be more of the chalk where people are heading. So I said, I need to get off the chalk. I need to get a contrarian stack. The one that stuck out to me is this Cleveland and Pittsburgh game. The over-under is nice, 51. So I got a really nice, solid – Vegas is telling us that these two offenses are going to put points on the board. And I like that Pittsburgh is only a 3-point favorite. We don't blow out. You don't have to worry. Both teams should have their entire starters, their playmakers in the game from whistle to whistle. So we should have a close game here between two division rivals, and this should be close with the high over-under. So, again, when you're looking for a contrarian stack in GPP tournaments, you want to get away from the herd. You want to bet on players that have low risk that people are not thinking about. So the first one, Ben Roethlisberger. Hey, my friend Emil, what's the percentage on Roethlisberger, by the way?
Owned by 4%.
Ooh, that's nice. That's below the 5% line.
Yeah, that's
and
a nice
Brown,
number.
It is a nice number. And the Browns give up the 24th most points to opposing quarterbacks. And why I like Roethlisberger, he's been very consistent in the last 4 games. Or actually, they've only played 4. They had a week off. 22, 19, and 21 points. So you have a very solid floor. But what I like about him for GPP, Ben Roethlisberger has 30-point upside. We've seen it. If you want to win your GPP, you want a quarterback who can put up 30 points on the game. And that is Roethlisberger. And I'm sorry, everyone, I spelled his name wrong. I apologize. I did it in a rush. But Ben Roethlisberger, he has 30 points upside, which I love in a GPP. So I'm going to begin there. Now, when I put together my GPPs, I always want the running back on the opposite team. Because what I'm looking for is game flow, and I like when the running back is the underdog, a special pass catcher. Kareem Hunt without Nick Chubb in there. Kareem Hunt saw a significant uptick in opportunities last week against the Indianapolis Colts. And that was a tough matchup, and Kareem Hunt still scored 18.3. The week before against Dallas, when Nick Chubb started, but then he got hurt and left, and Kareem Hunt had more opportunities, he scored 19.1. One game with Nick Chubb on the field against Cincinnati, Kareem Hunt scored 24. The point is, Kareem Hunt is a stud. I know the matchup is tough. I get the Pittsburgh a tough matchup. But I'm looking to get away from the herd, and sometimes great players, even in difficult matchups, can explode for a big day. Why I like Kareem Hunt, he's going to get the balls in the ground game, but he also can make a big play as a pass catcher. And we just saw Miles Sanders last week make one play, what was it, like 75 touchdown run. If you get through the Pittsburgh front 7, which is hard, I get it. It is not easy to get through the Pittsburgh front 7. But if a great running back load for a big play, Kareem Hunt has that in his range. A big play is a possibility, and that's what I'm looking for in a GPP. Emil, what's the ownership on Kareem Hunt, by the way?
11.3, and of course, as you mentioned, Hunt can catch the ball. So if they're not running well, he can go out and catch the ball, and he's a very good receiver. And I got a lot of yards after the catch. So
yeah, and Emil, what I would say, put it into our optimizer, of course, for GPP. See what it gives you, but also I'm okay. You can differentiate at the other positions. So I'm okay with Kareem Hunt here at 11% because I can find ops with less ownership, other running back in the flex. So I'm okay with 11. That's not that bad. Now, how about Odell? Because I like Odell in this game. What is Odell's ownership here?
3.6.
Woo! That I like, my man. If the game script goes the way we think and Pittsburgh jumps out and Pittsburgh's putting points on the board, Cleveland should throw a little bit more than they want. And Odell has that GPP upside. We saw it 2 weeks ago with Dallas. Now, I do not expect Odell Beckham to score 38 points. And we had him in our GPP in that game. But I don't expect him to score 38 points against Pittsburgh. But I think with the you said 3.8% ownership?
3.6.
3.6. Odell could explode for 20, 24 points with a very low ownership. I think because Odell was, he had an illness. He went home this week. Obviously, maybe the ownership is reflective of people being a little nervous investing in Odell in your lineups. I love that 3.6. So I'm going to take that all day long in this matchup. Then I said, who am I going to get on the Pittsburgh side? And we had to make a decision. Everyone in the football universe saw Chase Claypool just explode last week. Now, I was a little bit on Deontay Johnson. He got hurt. Claypool got all the opportunities. Saw him a ton at Notre Dame. I thought he would be a little bit better tight end than wide receiver. But you know what? That Pittsburgh coaching staff knows what they're doing. They've coached the young man up. They put him in situations to be successful. But I said, you know what? I think this is a Juju week. We know that Juju has big upside. Against the Giants, he scored 25 points. In that game, he was 7,200, first week of the season. Now he's only 6,600. He's come down in price. He also is coming off a bad week against the Eagles. He only had 6.8 points. In the other two games, he scored 12 and 16 points. I like Juju here. I do believe that's a veteran like Roethlisberger. He's going to understand that he needs to feed his alpha male. And I still believe Juju's the number one option on this Steelers passing game. Doesn't always work out that way because the Steelers are talented and they have a good coaching staff. So they'll go to where you could exploit the defense. But I think Juju bounces back here. What is Juju's ownership, by the way, Emil?
8.9% for Juju.
And what is Claypool, out of curiosity?
Let me go look. I don't have that. Grab that real quick. He is 8.07, 8%, basically 8%.
So they're basically the same. Interesting.
Yeah, pretty close to each other.
I like Juju. I think it's his week. I think he's going to bounce back here. If someone listening, if you like Chase Claypool, I'm okay with that. And you save Chase Claypool's 5,200, right? I think he's a little bit less than Juju. So you could put in Claypool as 5,200.
5,200.
So you could save some salary cap. But I like Juju. He's in my GPP stack. Then I said I need to save some money because everything is in this context of building a lineup and salary matters. So I'm going to go Eric Ebron here. Eric Ebron, to me, is a GPP wonder. We've seen him with the Lions and the Colts explode for big afternoons. He has the upside. But Eric Ebron is maddening because he can have a day with one catch for 3 yards, and then the next week he can have 5 catches, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So Eric, but he, to me, is the perfect GPP play. You're taking risk here. You're embracing risk. He's 4,100. I believe Ben Roethlisberger throws 3 or 4 touchdowns. Let's get 2 to Juju and 1 to Eric Ebron. That's how I'm looking today. So if I get 1 to Eric Ebron and he has his, 5 for 52 with the touchdown, I have a good day, maybe even GPP. Maybe he goes a little better. So I like Eric Ebron. What is his ownership, Emil?
5.6%.
That's not bad. He has upside, number one upside. So there's my contrarian stack. If you like it, everyone, and you agree with me, type it in, go to our optimizer on footballdiehards.com, see what the optimizer gets for you, where it builds a lineup. I've spent $3,700 of my cap. You have for 4 players, you have $4,825 per player. And I'm giving you still have a defense in there. So you can save a lot of money on the defense. You have a running back, a wide receiver, and a flex. Go punch it into our optimizer, and you guys see what you get around this stack. What do you think of it, Emil?
It's very nice. I like it. I like Roethlisberger, even with his name spelled differently. I still like him. Hunt, I like. It's good. It's a good one. It's these are the challenges with GPP. You gotta put some weird things in, but I like all this thing. I think Ebron's an interesting one. Also, yeah, it's a good lineup. Good start.
Yeah, and I'm taking. As we've said on previous shows, you have to be willing to embrace risk in a contrarian lineup, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm trying to get off of the chalk of those top teams because there's obviously going to be Packers, Bucks. You can go do Packers, Bucks, but guess what? you're going to have 100,000 friends doing the Packers and the Buccaneers. Right? And
By
maybe
the way,
you
we've
want...
got a couple questions here.
Oh, excellent.
Let's see. It says, are you not worried about a possible blowout in the Miami game and it goes to a running game? That's Robert.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
That is a possibility, but I'll say this. If they blow the Jets out, it's because Ryan Fitzpatrick is playing well.
That's a good point. Another question. In cash, would you play 3 Lions? I have Stafford, Hawkinson. Now I really like Galladay.
I could not play 3 Lions in a cash game. That sounds like a GPP. If you want to come back with some Jaguars, I like that idea. But I can't go 3 because, remember, you have to look at the floor. What if the Lions stick up the joint and score 10 points?
Yeah, which they can do.
The
floor is scary there. All right,
yes.
So would you go with Jonnu Smith instead of Hawkinson?
I could do that in a cash game, yes, as long as you can fit it in your salary cap. Absolutely. I like that.
Sounds good. He also said he's scared of Mayfield is questionable, and Hunt scares me against Pittsburgh. That's what it is. But anyway, that's what a GPP is about, though. You don't get it all.
And that's what we want people to be scared off.
Exactly.
I mean, we're hoping when we're doing the GPP, we're hoping that the salaries come down. And I will say this. I thought about Mayfield a lot. The problem was Mayfield's floor is bad, and he's questionable. So I said, I've got to start with Roth because I thought about Mayfield and Connor. I gave it a lot of thought. But Mayfield, the floor, man, he could throw 3 interceptions in this game. I just can't risk that. It's too much. But I did, and so I agree. I thought about Connor and Mayfield, but I went with Hunt and Roethlisberger.
Fantastic. Those are great. I got to get my lineups in this week. I can't wait. I'll probably do it tonight because when I get on to Sunday, I get delayed. But those are really good. Can't wait to put those in. Anything else you'd like to discuss or say?
No, just please go to footballdiehards.com. My sheet of knowledge is up there. You've seen all the great stuff we have. We have our optimizer. I update my lineup by 9 a.m. Eastern time, my sheet of knowledge every Sunday morning. I'm going to think long and hard about Phillip Lindsay in this matchup. Cam Newton's also something I'm looking at more into. He's in my value plays right now, but he's not in my lineup, so I'm going to think about this. But I'll have those for our readers tomorrow morning by 9 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm on it all morning. So thanks for watching. Hey, please join us every Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Emil and I are here. Ask questions. I love it. We're here for you, everyone.
Beautiful.